This is my third time at AgileByExample, and every time I come back, I have more and more fun. So let's get going. Before I get into the talk, I just want to hear from you first. So I set up a little Mentee Meter. If you go to www.mentee.com and use the code 9309320, and oh shit, here we go. Why can't, there, I got it. So, sorry. I just want to poll you and see what your experience has been. So my first question is, what was your setup before COVID-19? Were you 100% in the office? Were you 100% remote, or were you already doing a hybrid solution? So I'll give people some time to vote. There's 5 people, 6. I don't know. I think can you tell how many people are in the room, Pavel?
Yeah, there is a big group of people. I don't think I can see the number in the pink room. I'll ask the organizers in the meantime.
I'll wait until we get to like 25 or something, and then I'll go to the next question. But it's already interesting results. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question. So now, after pandemic time, what's your current setup? How are you all working? Same question. Are you 100% in the office, 100% remote, or are you doing hybrid? Why isn't it showing results? There we go. Interesting. So a lot of us have moved to 100% remote. Not many people are in the office these days. Okay, last question. What is your biggest challenge with coaching remote teams? So you can just type in whatever you want. It's going to make a little wordle, a little word cloud. I have to do this again. Is this one working? I can't tell. Voting is closed. Why is voting closed? I don't think it's going to work. I don't know what your biggest challenge is, but I'll tell you what mine is. I'll figure it out later. I don't know. It's okay. We're going to go back to the presentation. Thank you. And actually, it's really telling, right? So there. The first thing I want to talk about is that in this talk, there's a few caveats, right? So this isn't a normal period of time. We're dealing with exceptional circumstances. I'm here in Barcelona, and you know, from one day to the next we were fine, and then we were in lockdown. And from week to week, we didn't know when the lockdown was gonna finish. And my office wasn't prepared at all. So it was literally pack your stuff up and go home, and we'll figure it out next week. So not only that, but it wasn't just the fact that we had to all work from home, but it was also just what was happening in the world. And so it's not as if, you know, we've just magically made this decision that we're all going to go remote now and everything's going to work out. We've had to adapt not only how we work, but also adapt in this strange time that we're in. So the second caveat, I don't understand, there, is that when we talk about remote work, it's not the same as working from home. So before lockdown, I was working from home every Friday. So because I had a long commute into Barcelona from where I live in Sitges, and that was fine. But when you're doing it day in, day out, 24/7, it's a whole different ball of wax if you're 100% remote. So things that you have to think about now are your infrastructure setup. So what, do you have high bandwidth internet? How much more money are your teams spending on utilities like electricity or water or gas? You have to think about the space that people are in. So I know quite a few people who are in shared flats, and everyone in the flat was also working from home, and they were having a really hard time just finding a place in their house where they could have a video conference and focus on it and not have so many interruptions. But it's also not just that, it's having a proper chair that you're going to be sitting in, having a desk, having additional screens, having a desk big enough for additional screens. Some people don't even have that. And then the third part of this idea of remote work versus working from home is that you really have to have a conscious delineation between what is your work time and what is your home time. And I'm going to get into a little bit of that in more detail in the next slide. And finally, just this whole idea of being cut off from your teams. So, there has to be great intentionality when it comes to connecting with work colleagues. You're not going to run into anybody at a coffee machine. You have to actually, go into Slack or open up a Google Hangout or call someone or do a WhatsApp or whatever to connect with them and find out how they're doing. So all these things combine into this way of working now where it's all the time. It's not just the occasional Friday or once or twice a month or whatever. It's all the time. So it's a different thing. So that's two caveats. And the third caveat is that this hybrid approach, which now we're seeing a lot of companies transitioning to, is the most difficult one to navigate. So before lockdown, quite a few companies were already doing kind of a hybrid approach. My company was, but we were doing it really badly. So, everything from the infrastructure setup in the office to connect with our remote colleagues, finding a Bluetooth speaker or connecting your video or doing all that, or doing all the kind of tech stuff, to not having really clear guidelines for everyone in the workplace about how we ensure equal treatment for our remote colleagues. I've gotten a lot of inspiration from Lisette Sutherland and the work she's done, and that's her book, Work Together Anywhere. And the other book, Remote, Office Not Required by Jason Fried, also really inspiring. So this talk isn't about that. This talk isn't about how to create, a healthy remote first office experience. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into just what it means to be an Agile coach. But if your company is struggling with figuring this stuff out, definitely check out those two books. And when you're starting that transition to going back to a hybrid approach and everyone's not remote, remember what it was like when everyone was remote and try to bring those best practices into how you're working. So what are we going to do? We're Agile coach. Well, most of us are Agile coaches, I guess. What do you do when you're in this situation? And just from my own personal experience, for quite a few years, I was really envious of my developer friends who were getting remote coaching, remote development gigs, right? So they can like work wherever, whenever. You know, they could work for, I have quite a few friends who are working for US companies, digital nomad friends. And when you're a developer, it feels like it's a lot easier than when you're a coach, right? Because when you're a coach, you need to, I always felt like you need to have the people around you. You need to be able to kind of see how the work is getting done and what's happening, and pick up those vibes, and then have all that rich information from which you can then coach. So for a long time, I was thinking it was impossible to be an agile coach in a remote setup. But now I think differently. So the first thing that you need to do, well, the first thing I did when we had this lockdown was not even think about workflow or productivity or anything like that. It was just about taking care of the team. And as I said, our team was really unprepared when lockdown happened. So the first thing I did was I wrote a series of 2 emails to the whole company. We're not that big, we're about 75 people. And I said, okay, look, we don't know how long this is going to last. Here are some guidelines to help you navigate it. And so the first email was really about, you know, we have to stay productive, we still have to deliver, and it, you know, it was all about working out loud, which I'll get into in a bit. It was about, you know, letting your teammates know when you were there and when you weren't there, about how to do meetings, that kind of stuff. But it was really kind of orientated towards staying productive. And after our first week of lockdown, the messages started coming in from some of my colleagues. And actually, I suffered it as well. There were, you know, those first 4 or 5 days of lockdown, I was in my office on video or Slack for like 12-hour days, just trying to help the rest of the team figure out what they were going to do and how they were going to deal with it. And it actually wasn't until the Friday after the first week that my partner, Kelsey, she's like, you know, you don't have to social distance from me because I was spending so much time working and making sure that my team was okay. I forgot about, like, you know, kind of my home life. And so, and a lot of people were saying that they were just like really trying to be productive, so they would have like complete back-to-back 10-hour days of meetings, like meeting, without any break for going to the bathroom or having a proper lunch or whatever. And so my second email was, okay, you showed you can be super productive, but this isn't sustainable. So let's have a little bit more balance. And so I was in the second email, I was talking about protecting your time, and when you shut off, really shut off, and you know, being kind to each other, because a lot of our colleagues are parents, and so they were also like having really difficult situations where they had to not only, you know, show up for work, but make sure their kids were taken care of and do homeschooling, and they had another partner or someone was sick, or, you know, so there was like all these other things that people had to deal with where they couldn't just say, okay, I'm going to go to the office and that stuff is at home. And so this idea of just taking care of the team is really, really important in any situation. And one of my inspirations is from Josh Kravitsky. I think that's how you say his name, this modern agile concept. And in one of the principles, make safety a prerequisite, really resonates for me in this situation that we're in. So he says safety, I'll read it. Safety is both a basic human need and a key to unlocking high performance. We actively make safety a prerequisite by establishing safety before engaging in any hazardous work. We protect people's time, information, reputation, money, health, and relationships. And we endeavor to make our collaborations, products, and services resilient and safe. And this idea of taking care of the people first is so important. So So thank you, Josh, if you're watching this. And the other thing connected to taking care of people first is knowing where and how to give support to individual contributors, to managers, and actually as an Agile coach, to operations and HR. So in terms of individual contributors, one of the things that I did and I still do is just check in with each person on the team for 15, 20 minutes once a week. And it was nothing to do about work, but it was about, how are they doing and how are they coping and what are they struggling with? And just making those connections and reaching out to people, super important. And as a coach, what I did with the managers was encourage them to do the same thing. So, sending them lists of open questions that they could be asking, helping them kind of navigate in their one-to-ones if they weren't going so well, and just knowing that they had me also as kind of a support person to help them out. And with operations and HR, what I do with this group of people, I'm actually in operations as the Agile coach, but it was really about learning as we go and helping craft these guidelines that are going to help us transition to this hybrid role. So taking all the information and feedback and experience that we've had over the last 6 months and using that to inform how we're going to go forward in this hybrid model. And it's, again, all about flexibility, not about not designating really how many hours you're in the office or how many hours you're not in the office, but really like emphasizing the idea of flexibility, not only in number of days, but also working hours. And so it's turning that orientation more towards examining results rather than how much time you're spending at work. And then also, just talking about infrastructure stuff again, figuring out what software we want to use, what communication channels we want to use. A lot of this stuff I do already anyway when I kick off with teams. So we talk about where we communicate what and when. And so kind of formalizing that at the operations and HR level helps everyone in a company kind of know what to do where. Yeah, what to do where. Okay. So, like I said before, there's two main problem areas that I see us facing as Agile coaches. And the first problem is, how do you observe when you're remote? Because I'm sitting in my office here in Sechus and I can't even see the people I'm talking to right now. And that's kind of like how it is every single day. So how do you do this observation when you're remote? And the second problem that I want to talk about today is how do you facilitate productive working sessions? So, I'm a big fan of Post-its and getting in a room and getting around a whiteboard and thinking out loud and collaborating and drawing. So how do we do that when we're distributed and remote from each other? So I'm going to share some tools that I've grown to love in the last few months, and I hope you get to check them out too. So observation tools. These are the things that I use to get a sense of what is happening with my teams, with the company in general, with how the work is happening or not. So first one, like I said before, one-on-ones. And again, I'm not a people manager, but I do one-to-ones with so many different people. And it's, in a way, it's a bit like roulette. So I make sure that I talk to every single person on the team at least once a month. And there's people that I talk to more, obviously, but it's just so important to reach out and intentionally have these conversations. And so the kinds of questions I like to ask are, on a scale of 1 to 10, how's everything going for you? What challenges are you facing? How's it going with keeping in contact with your teammates? And how can I, as your coach, support you? Again, it's all about asking open questions and then listening. So you don't have to come up with answers. You just have to create the space where you can have that connection with another person and they can share what's going on in their life with you. One-on-one's really, really rich in terms of getting information. Meetings, obviously. So there's, as a coach, there's the meetings that you're facilitating, and I'm going to talk about those later, but then there's just the meetings that you go to pick up the energy and see what's happening. And the ones that I find super valuable are the weekly team meetings. And I just like I know when all of them are, and even for the teams I'm not directly coaching, I just like drop in and hear what's going on, because a lot of the time, all this information, even if you're not remote, right? All the information for a team is like kind of concentrated with that team. And it's only if you happen to be walking by or dropping in to their meeting that you're going to find some information. And the other one that's super interesting for me is these Ask Me Anything or all hands meetings. And what I do with that is really kind of think, you know, what are the questions that people are asking and why are they asking those questions? And then that gives me enough to go and dig a little deeper and find out more information. But it's just kind of gives me a sense of what's happening with the team. One thing I like to ask people to do is start the meeting 5 minutes early so that you can, kind of like we did, Pablo and I did that today, actually more like 15 minutes early, but you just get to like turn up. You don't have to start the meeting right away, but you get to hear how everyone is doing. And also this idea with weekly meetings or Ask Me Anything, is just having this kind of regularity, having it on the same day at the same time with more or less the same agenda, just kind of makes you know that it's something that's always going to happen, and you know it's going to be there, and you know that that's a space where you can share and also get information. And just in case you don't, but what we do is we use the chat feature in our video software for Q&A, especially with the really big meetings, because a lot of the times no one wants to speak up. And we found that either opening up a Google Doc maybe a day or so before the meeting so people can already populate it with questions, or using the chat feature, we get a lot more back and forth interaction happening. Okay, the third thing, working out loud. So this is another inspiration. This is developed by John Stepper. And so his whole thing with working out loud is creating learning networks. And for me, what I abstracted from that is, if I share what I'm working on and what I need help with to the rest of the team, and I don't just mean like my immediate team, but you know, the whole company, chances are there is someone who's either interested in what I'm working on or knows how they can help me. And so it's the idea of creating this network of this kind of learning / support network for growth and development. And I find it really valuable. And one of the things that we're doing at Alpha is having working out loud channels where we can kind of share what's going on with each of us in our particular projects. So that's working out loud. And Mentee Meter, that's the other one. So we did Mentee Meter this morning. We do Mentee Meter every week at our weekly meeting, just to get the pulse of what's happening. We have just 2 to 3 repeated questions, and then we have a rotating question at the end. And then that's also really interesting if you like look back over the weeks and months and see how the trends go up and down. And it's, you know, very low overhead to just put together a quick survey and run that. So Mentee Meter is another tool. And I think this is finally for observation, are these weekly snippets weekly snippets that the different teams create to say what they did last week, what they're planning to do this week, what their challenges are, and any other information. And I basically read the weekly snippets like you would a newspaper. So I use that to kind of uncover cross-team dependencies, follow up on bottlenecks, and connect the dots where the people on the teams seem like they haven't yet connected them. So I could like read this data engineering weekly snippet and then know that, you know, I should probably say, hey, you might want to talk to this guy in DevOps about something, or this guy in research. And so I'm just like looking at all of it and helping people make the connections. Okay, facilitation tools, my favorite stuff. This one I use even if I was in person. So it's called Session Lab, and it's basically a workshop planning tool. It's like super fun to use because you can drag and drop your different segments of your workshop. It'll automatically calculate your timings. They also have a really rich library of facilitation techniques that you can just kind of pull, and then everything's already laid out for you, helps you. It's just really good for helping you organize longer workshops. So I highly recommend Session Lab as a workshop planning tool, regardless of whether you're remote or not. I have my favorite features in Zoom. We all do. So I love the recording feature. I love breakout rooms, using chat, obviously share screen. Reactions are super fun now, and the polls and hand raising. I think we all love Zoom. I'm like, yeah, I like Zoom. One of the things that I found really, really helpful when I'm trying to do these breakout rooms, if I have like maybe a retrospective or something, is I go to random team generator, I stick everyone's name in there, and it spits out random groups for me. So super, super quick and easy. Also, you know, very helpful when you're trying to have a really nice mix of people working together. Miro or Mural. I wish I could see people right now, because I don't know if you all already know about this, but I just started using Miro a month ago, and I love it. And yesterday, actually, I was facilitating a workshop and used Mural because that's what the company was using. What is it? It's real-time whiteboard collaboration. They provide ready-made grids. They also have templates that you can use. There's no post-its, pile of post-its left at the end, which I really love. There's built-in voting features, and you can export everything. And I'm going to try. Oh, fuck. I'm like messing up. Shit. Where is it? Here it is. So, so this is a mural that we created yesterday in this workshop. And so we were doing a futurespective, and we made this empathy map. And everyone was like doing their post-its here. And then I said, okay, let's cluster them. So they moved it over here. And then from that, I said, okay, it sounds like there's some things that we need to agree on. So we came up with team agreements. And we did all of this in the same space, and everyone interacted with it. And it was like so seamless. Like the UX experience was like so easy and intuitive. So I highly, highly recommend Miro or Mural for any kind of brainstorming whiteboarding sessions. I'm trying to get to my thing now. Why can't I just don't get it. There, got it. Finally, Trello. Why do I like Trello and not Jira? Because it's easier to use. I mean, so the software development teams where I work, they're all using Jira. And I'm working with product teams where it's half in Trello and half in Jira. And that's okay, because it's easier for people to wrap their heads around it, and it doesn't look as onerous. And there's more colors and there's pictures, and it's just easy. So do Trello, and there's already hooks into Jira now, so you don't even have to worry about giving up Jira. But like, I have some screen grabs of different boards that we have. So up here, the Evermind Weekly. So this is for the team weekly meeting. And what they actually do in their weekly meeting is they start in Trello, and it's color coded by kind of discipline. So there's like a UX color, a content color, an engineering color, marketing, product. And they all like say what they're gonna work on during the week and what's in progress and what's done. They keep track of their OKRs as well. It's like super simple. Then there's another Trello that, here's an example for a retro that I did a while ago. And again, everyone was able to quickly add the cards and cluster, and we did breakout groups, so each one got to create their own card. Easy. And then this last one is about, is for our content team. And so they have they're basically managing their whole content creation process into themes and what's going where, and using Trello for that. So I definitely would consider Trello if there are still teams just getting started, or if you're trying to kind of help people wrap their heads around certain big projects or workflows. That's it for my tools. I just want to give you a quick takeaway. So first and most important, take care of the people first. That is like the secret sauce. You need to know what's happening with each person who you're working with, and just being kind and listening. As a coach, you need to dedicate time and really, it's not so easy now, right? So again, like I said, you're not going to pick up on the energy in the room, or you're not going to hear what the conversations are around the coffee machine. You have to go out there and go to the meetings, read the weekly snippets, troll the Slack channels just to find out what's going on. And then third, as the coach, when you are meeting together and facilitating, collaborating, use the tools out there to make sure that it's an optimal experience for everyone. So think about both the user experience of it, the output of it, and how much time it takes to learn the tools. But try to offer different options to your teams for how they're going to do collaboration and brainstorming. And that's it. That's my Twitter handle if you want to follow me on Twitter. And I'm entering the land of podcasting, so you can check out a podcast at experientialagile.com. I'll just say there isn't any podcast posted there yet, because I still have to upload them, but very soon. And that's it. So thank you
very much. Thank you very much, Mel.
Sure.
What a great first presentation for the Pink Room. Thanks for sharing, all of the experience. And yeah, I mean, I think many of us are really in a very similar situation, and kind of have been forced to enter this maybe unknown territory of remote work very, very rapidly. I remember from the experience from my company was kind of funny that before COVID happened, we were like, no, we should only do maximum 2 remote work days every month. And then when it happened, we're like immediately switching to like all remote. And we kept it this way And we are now kind of in this hybrid mode where you can come into the office if you feel like it's going to be better for you, or if you don't have like best conditions at home, or etc., and you feel like it's safe for you, etc. But this, work from home or remote work setup just remains really the core of the way we're working now. So, I think many companies, probably all are going through the same transition here. I want to say to the public something that I didn't say in the beginning of the talk, which would be probably helpful to you, and that is, if you want to ask questions to Mel, there is a room chat on the right hand side. There is a panel and a room chat where you can just write questions, and feel free to do that during the presentations in the future as you continue to participate in other as well. But right now it's a great moment for you to go there. And if you have any questions to Mel, we still have about 11 minutes to go through some Q&As. And actually we have first questions coming in from the public. So I will show it right now. And the first question is, what is your general agreement on dropping by in meetings where you're not formally part of the group? I hope you can all see this question now. I've highlighted it.
So what's interesting is that for sure there's basically 3 team meetings where I'm not formally part of the group, but not only myself, but a lot of other people who are not formally part of the group attend. And those are like the 2 main product weekly team meetings. And then I also go to the R&D weekly meeting. Sometimes, well, I also go to the engineering leads meeting too. And I'm not part of any of those groups, right? I'm an outsider. But the groups have open Slack channels, and at the top of their Slack channels, it says, this is when our weekly meeting is, and this is where we meet. And so, anyone is welcome. They're not really, it's not a very closed kind of setting. So anyone can drop in, and lots of people drop in. I mean, I think the last, one of the products, the last weekly meeting was about 20 people, 25. It's still for the team and it's their stuff, but there's a lot of people who are just coming to listen and observe, and they don't say anything. I mean, I don't say anything in these meetings either, right? I just go there and listen and hear what's going on. I think it's more of a company cultural thing that we value transparency and being open. And so there's not a lot of stuff that's closed.
Interesting. I think this is a great company culture, actually, where you are kind of allowed to drop in, and you're welcome really to drop in on the meetings that you were not originally invited to, but you might be interested in. At the same time, I presume honoring some of the meetings, like maybe retrospectives, and maybe some dedicated closed group meetings that you just want to keep in this closed group. But then I think this is natural again to just let the people know that these groups are, or these meetings are for these particular reasons. They are meant to stay kind of close to the particular group, so we can kind of more open up and be more transparent with each other without kind of thinking about, okay, who has joined our group and why. Interesting. The next question I want to go into right now is, how has the lockdown affected your productivity levels? I'm curious as well, how do you measure that?
So I need a clarification. Do you mean me personally or the teams?
Great question. So let me see if the original person who asked the question can clarify that really quick on the chat. So the clarification question is it for the team output? Okay, thank you, Julia. So the team output is the question is about the team output. But Mateusz says, feel free to answer both.
Okay. Can you repeat question again? Was it about how do you measure productivity?
Sure. So the question actually is, how has lockdown affected your productivity level? So your personally, and your as a team output.
So I'll talk about the team first because really, and like really, it hasn't negatively affected. In fact, I think it has positively influenced productivity for sure in the beginning, because in a way, people were finding that work was almost a distraction, right, from dealing with other stuff. And so a lot of our team was putting a lot of time into work. And yeah, so how did we measure that productivity? We use OKRs where I am. And so, it was like 90% of the OKRs got met. And, we release a lot, so you can kind of see the progress. Again, I think it's kind of a consequence of being fairly transparent. Like we know what we know what the teams are producing and what they're releasing and what's getting done. And, we do roadmap updates to the whole company every 2 weeks. So everyone kind of knows what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. So, what I've found over the summer though, is that I guess like it wasn't so much the productivity, but the mood started dipping a bit, because it was, again, it's like we've been on this roller coaster here. They started relaxing the lockdown measures in June and July, and then things got bad again. And really for the last couple months, you don't really know which way it's going to swing, right? So in Catalonia, we're still quite strict. It's not as bad as in Madrid right now. And offices are slowly opening, but only at 50% capacity. And so everyone's kind of navigating all of this unknown. But the way we measure the productivity really is mainly through the OKRs, and also just by what the teams are releasing. And then for me personally, how I'm measuring my productivity is, I just kind of have my intentions for what I need to get done, or what I need to figure out for the week and for the day. And I do that for myself and by myself. So no one's really measuring my output. I also have OKRs though. So, every quarter I'm seeing if I meet those OKRs. So that's basically how it works.
Okay, this sounds great, and I'm really, I really think that the way you're described it, the way you're doing it in terms of measuring productivity by outcomes. So OKRs, to me, this is essentially by outcomes and by what you guys release, and probably also you then measure how this release, what kind of impact is it making. This is really the way to go. And because I've heard some ideas about, okay, so now in COVID times, everyone is kind of, from home, and we should find new measures of measuring productivity. So maybe we should, I don't know, introduce some new tools that measure how many hours people are spending at work and things like this, kind of more connected to, related to the actual time rather than the effects of work. And then this is getting tricky. And then there is the trust factor of, okay, do you trust the people are actually working, and how many hours are they working, etc. So really focusing on the outcomes, in my opinion, is a very mature way of doing this. And so I'm really happy to hear that. And I wish most of the companies would be able to do that.
But it's really interesting. I had a conversation with our HR person, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, about, because Spain now is coming up with this remote work law, how to
exactly
for employees though, and it's in the interest not of employers, but it's to protect employees. And one of the things they actually say is that you need to keep track of how many hours someone is working, not to kind of punish them if they don't work a 40-hour week, but to find out if they're working more than they should be, and making sure that either they're compensated or they rebalance.
So kind of the other way around.
It's the other way around.
Yeah.
It's like so easy to misinterpret that as, oh, they want to see, you know, how many hours I'm sat in front of my computer.
Good point. Yeah, the intentions are really important here.
Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe this will be the last question. Let's see how you know how fast we can answer this. I guess you're looking at the time. We have about 3 minutes to go, but or 2 minutes to go. But this is a more technical question. Are there any advantages to using Murad over Miro?
Oh, okay. I can answer that really quickly. I actually, it's so funny because I was asking myself that this morning. I'm like, should I go with Miro or should I go with Mural? And so far, what I know, I only used Mural for the first time yesterday, so I'm quite new to it. But one of the big differences between Mural and Miro is that when you have the voting feature in Mural, you get to see all the results and they kind of stay there. Whereas if you're setting up a voting feature in Miro, only the person who's running the voting session can see the results. And so that was one thing. There's kind of a difference in how they do voting. The other big difference between Mural and Miro is that in Miro, it feels like the canvas is bigger, like it's always one big white whiteboard. And in Mural, they have like this kind of gray, here, maybe I can show it. Where is it? So see, there's like this gray area there. So that's outside of the canvas, but here is all kind of the workspace. And what's cool is there's like this zoom feature down here where you can kind of see the whole entire map. That's essentially the main differences that I found.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mel. This has been the last question. It's been a pleasure to have you at ABA this year. Thank you very much for joining again. And to all of you guys that you didn't get to ask your question to Mel, I just want to say that you can continue the discussion with Mel on a dedicated Slack channel.
Yep.
And the way to do that is you go to channel and you click a plus next to the channel, and then you type talk-lang-coaching toolkit. But you'll see the channels in the browser. You'll be able to browse through the channels. So this way you can find each presenter, each speaker after the talk, and this way you can reach out to them and continue the discussion about this topic even after this talk is done. And also, I want to ask you right now that if you want to leave some feedback to Mel, there is a link that I will just type in the room right now, and feel free to leave your feedback after the presentation to help Mel improve, and also let us know what you think. Thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.